Good afternoon, everyone. Or good morning, if you're still way the west. And, I think Kyle's home, maybe. Just as I go live, Kyle arrives back from Greece. Speaking of Greece, Dr. Michael Mosley's missing from a Greek island. If you're in the UK, you probably know who I mean by Dr. Michael Mosley. He's like a doctor, but he appears on a lot of TV shows and stuff. And he was reported missing, I think, Wednesday afternoon. He was reported missing. And he's on holiday with his wife on this little Greek island called Simi. And he was going from the beach back to their accommodation where they were staying. 20-minute walk, and he didn't arrive back. And they think he might be in the sea because the coastal road that he would have taken to walk back is up a cliff. So it's not looking good, but it's a tiny island. So they were saying today on the news that they should be able to just search the entire island. And yeah, terrible. I like Michael Mosley. Quite like him. Did I get everything cleaned? Well, it's clean to my standards. Let's put it that way. It's clean to my standards. Yeah, I didn't take his phone. He hadn't taken his phone to the beach. So his phone was back in the accommodation or the hotel, whatever. I don't know whether they were staying in like a hotel or an Airbnb or something. So he didn't take his phone to the beach because not everybody is connected to their phones, like some kind of, medical sealing to your hand. Not everybody's like that. I don't take my phone everywhere. So that's why he's not got his phone with him. And I think he's fallen. I really do. Yeah, 67. Yeah, very hot. May have had a heart attack, yeah. So a medical emergency that resulted in a fall, yeah. Hello, Kyle.
Hello.
How was Greece?
Hot.
Have you heard about Michael Mosley? I think he was on the next island to you.
Simi Island?
Yeah.
I was going to go there that day.
Were you?
But we didn't go.
You could have saved him.
What happened to him?
Well, he's missing.
Yeah, we was going to go on a boat trip there. We just decided not to go that day.
Oh.
Somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not far from where he was.
Mm. Did you see all the helicopters and that?
Saw one helicopter, but didn't know what it was for.
Oh.
It flew over, yeah.
We could have saved him. He could have been on the same
What
path.
happened to him?
Well, he's missing, but it's assumed he's in the sea.
How?
Fell in.
No, does he not got out?
Because it's a cliff.
All right.
So he was walking from the beach back to the town where he was staying. And it's a 20-minute walk, but it's the coastal road that he was going to take is a cliff walk. So he's 67, so he could have had like a medical emergency.
Well, it was boiling.
There you go then. I think part of it's steep.
That is very steep round.
And he was saying, don't mind me, I'm just having a chat, don't mind me. He was in one of his programs, his medical programs that he does. He was saying that he was borderline diabetic because he was doing loads of health changes. This is probably about 10 years ago, though, when he used to be on like these health programs and stuff. So anyway,
yeah, we decided to go to Lindos instead of Simi Island.
Oh, Well, you're not much use. You could have been part of the search effort. You could have been on telly. Saving a celebrity doctor. He's walked off now. He said it's very hot. They were on the next island. They were going to go on I don't know if you could hear what he was saying, but the day that Michael Mosley disappeared, they were going to go on a boat trip to Simi Island. So he was staying on Rhodes, I think, which is also an island. And he was going to go on a boat trip, but they went somewhere else instead. So anyhow, let's get back to the matter at hand. Yeah, neither use nor ornament. Yeah. You get more response through than you do yourself. Yeah, well, he's not commented on the cleaning, so I assume it's acceptable. As long as he doesn't notice all the paint that's on the floor. Because as long as you clean acrylic paint up quickly, it's fine. It leaves nothing. But if you let it dry and then you try and clean it, it's a ball ache to get off. You have to scrub it. So I just left it, like lots of paint. It's not like bucket loads. It's just lots of spots of paint. Anyhow, it'll be fine. Please continue this case. I will. All right, so over to Rex Heuermann. So this is the bail application. And in New York, they call it a bail application. Essentially, though, it's a probable cause affidavit. So it reads like a probable cause affidavit. It's just called a bail application. He's not going to get bail. So don't think by the term bail application, it means that he's not. He's never going to get bail. That dude is staying in prison, a jail, or wherever he's being housed right now. He is there for the rest of his life. He's 60 years old and he's charged with 6 horrendous murders. And the evidence against him is astonishing. It's astonishing. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. Now, bear in mind, this is harrowing, and I'm going to read it all. This is harrowing. The trigger warning thing, it doesn't do it justice. I'm just telling you that this is harrowing. The last time I saw a probable cause affidavit like this was Adam Montgomery, and all of the things that he'd allegedly, now we know because he's convicted, he did to his little daughter Harmony. That was like 50 odd pages. This is 37 pages, but I think this is just as bad as Adam Montgomery's. So that's the level that we're at. All right. So on July 14th, 2023, defendant Rex Heuermann was charged by a grand jury with the following 6 counts, which have been incorporated in Suffolk County Indictment 71889-23. So we've got 3 murder in the first degree, and then we've got 3 murder in the second degree. Now, the only reason, the DA did talk about this yesterday, the only reason why some of them are second degree is the age of the case. So it must be some kind of law in New York, which they obviously need to change. But that's why he's got 3 first degree and then 3 second degree. It's simply the age of the case. It's not that they're saying he's got a lesser amount of intentionality in 3 of them. That's not. It's just what they can charge him with, given the amount of time. So we've got murder in the first degree for Melissa Bartholomew. We've got, hold on a minute. So that's second. So he's, hold on. So he's charged. So he's charged with 3, he's charged with both for these first 3. So these were the first 3 last July. Let's just get this straight. Let's get our thinking caps on here. So July of last year, he was charged with 3 of the Gilgo Beach. So these 3, he's been able to be charged with murder in the first degree. But alongside that, they've also tagged on murder in second degree. So we've got first degree murder for Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. So these second degree, they're just like core charges. So for the same victims. Then on January 16th, 2024, defendant Rex Heuermann was charged by the grand jury in a superseding indictment in Suffolk County, which is the above counts, and the additional murder in the second degree of Maureen Brainard Barnes. So they wanted to charge for Maureen when they did the 3, Megan, Amber, and Melissa, but they didn't have all of their ducks in a row. They actually arrested him, I think, a little bit sooner than they'd like to have done. The reason being is it looked like he was going to commit another murder, because he was, they caught him going by in a burner phone. There was probably chatter on they were probably surveilling him. There may have been chatter on his, his correspondence that they've probably, like, I don't know, got wired or whatever. So they were concerned. They were concerned that he was going to do it again. So they swooped in. And in doing that, they didn't quite have their ducks in a row for Maureen. So they had to go back and then recharge him in January. Now, we've got 2 additional charges. So today, which was obviously yesterday, defendant Rex Heuermann stands before this court charged by the grand jury in another superseding indictment, which incorporates each and every one of the above counts, as well as, in addition, the charges of murder in the second degree for both Jessica Taylor and Sandra Costilla. So again, the second degree, don't read anything into that. Don't read anything into that second degree is a lesser charge. Don't read anything into the fact that, a second degree is, where it's, not planned, or it's unintentional, it's equivalent of manslaughter. No. It's about the age of the case. The DA did explain it in the press conference yesterday, but it's interesting that with Melissa, Amber, and Megan, they've been able to also charge him with murder in the first degree. All right, so those are his charges. Now we get into everything else. Okay, so the people filed a written bail application for Rex Heuermann's initial arraignment, which occurred on July 14th, 2023, as well as the defendant's arraignment on the initial superseding indictment, which occurred on January 16th, 2024. These applications are annexed here too as Exhibit A. On July 14th, 2023, the Honourable Richard Ambrose ordered that defendant Rex Heuermann be remanded without bail. The matter was subsequently adjourned to August 1st, 2023, before the Honourable Timothy Mosley. On August 1st, 2023, and in the ensuing appearances which have followed, this court has continued to remand the defendant without bail. Set forth below is the people's bail application in support of the new superseding indictment, which will expand on additional evidentiary developments in this investigation, now charging defendant Heuermann with the murders of 2 additional victims, Jessica Taylor, who was just 20 years old. Members of her family spoke at the press conference yesterday, so that was difficult to hear, and Sandra Costilla. Based on defendant Heuermann's indictment on additional murder charges as it pertains to now a 5th and 6th victim, the serious and heinous nature of these serial murders, the planning and forethought that went into these crimes, the strength of the people's case, the length of incarceration the defendant faces upon conviction, the extended period of time that this defendant was able to avoid apprehension, and the remaining facts set forth herein and contained within Exhibit A, which is the PCAs or the bail applications for the Gilgo 4 that he's already been in jail for. The people remain steadfast that the only means to ensure defendant Rex Heuermann's return to court is to remand him without bail. So we get now into the discovery of the remains of Jessica Taylor, 20 years old, just 20 years old. Oh, dear. Yeah, people, I'm not watching the chat right at this moment in time, but if anybody's concerned that their memberships disappeared, it's because there's no memberships on this channel. I'm streaming this on Michelle Walks. I don't have memberships on this channel. I haven't set them up. So the reason why you're not seeing your green jacket is because you're not a member on this channel. No one is, because there's no memberships on this channel. I could set them up if people want to pay me. I can set them up. I can set them up, today if you want. But I don't expect people to pay for 2 channels. That's the reason why. I haven't done it so far. All right. So the 2003 and 2011 discovery of the human remains of Jessica Taylor. Do I want mods for this channel? I do have mods on this channel. Well, I do have some mods. I don't have as many mods. But I can mod you. Let's see. So Broken Goth Doll, I can mod you because you're a mod on the other channel. So anybody who's a mod on the other channel, I'll mod on here. There we go. Hey GG, aka Bug Love's here. All right. I don't think we're going to have any funny business. It's not controversial, this. I don't think there's anybody arguing that Rex Heuermann is innocent. Not that I've seen anyway. But there's time yet. The free Rex Heuermann campaign, I'm sure, will be along anytime soon. All the hairs that were Rex's and the hairs that were his wife's and the hairs from the female that was living with him, at the time of one of the murders. Oh, they were planted. I'm quite sure that somebody could make that argument that they were planted. All right. Okay. So this is about the human remains of Jessica Taylor, just 20 years old. On or about July 26, 2003, an individual whose identity is known to law enforcement, hereinafter Witness 1, was walking his or her dog just west of Halsey Manor Road in Manorville, Suffolk County, New York. At this time, Witness 1 observed what appeared to be human remains, which prompted him or her to call 911. Upon arrival, members of the Suffolk County Police Department observed the remains of a female, later identified as Jessica Taylor. Miss Taylor was found lying on her back with her legs bent underneath her. Notably, the victim was decapitated and both of Miss Taylor's arms had been severed from her body below her elbows. Moreover, a tattoo on the victim's torso had been severely obliterated by a sharp object. Investigators believe the mutilation of the victim's tattoo, decapitation of her head, and dismemberment of Miss Taylor's arms were acts perpetrated by Rex Heuermann to, inter alia, inhibit the identification of the victim via facial recognition, fingerprints, and/or tattoo identification. During the initial investigation in Manorville in 2003, the victim's head, arms, and hands were not found at the scene, and their location remained unknown to law enforcement for approximately 8 years. On March 29, 2011, Miss Taylor's skull, hands, and forearm were discovered along Ocean Parkway just east of Gilgo Beach, Suffolk County, New York. Notably, Miss Taylor's remains were located on the same side of the road from where Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, here in the Gilgo 4, had been found just several months prior in December 2010. Each of the Gilgo Fort victims, as well as the skull, hands, and forearm of Miss Taylor, were recovered on the same side of the road and at a depth of within 50 feet from the edge of the parkway. So he's that lazy, he just probably drives off the parkway a little way and dumps the body. That's what he does. That's what he does. Okay. Furthermore, Miss Taylor's remains were located less than a mile from where the Gilgo Fort were discovered. See embedded image on the following page. Okay, so this is the locations. So we've got Jessica Taylor was found here, and then we've got the four: Maureen, Melissa, Megan, and Amber. So Jessica's head and arm, 50 feet from the pavement. Maureen, 33 feet. Melissa, 27 feet. Megan, 22 feet. And Amber, 29 feet from the pavement. Terrible. Okay. Information relevant to the disappearance of Jessica Taylor. Jessica Taylor was last seen on or about July 19th, 2003 in New York City. The investigation to date had established that in July 2003, Miss Taylor was working as a sex worker in the area of Midtown Manhattan. And remember, Rex Heuermann worked in Manhattan. On July 21st, 2003, at approximately 8:41 p.m., Miss Taylor utilized her cellular phone, hereinafter the Taylor phone, to speak to her mother. Based on witness interviews and an analysis of telephone records, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has learned that the two spoke for approximately 7 minutes. During that call, Miss Taylor had arranged to visit her mother on July 25th, 2003 in Poughkeepsie, is that how we say it? New York, for her mother's birthday. Less than 2 hours later, at approximately 10:22 p.m., the Taylor phone placed an outgoing call, which lasted approximately 2 minutes. Thereafter, the Taylor phone record reveals no further outgoing calls or accepted incoming calls. So that was July 25th, 2003. On or about July 25th, 2003, when her daughter failed to arrive at the Poughkeepsie residence to answer any phone calls, Miss Taylor's mother notified law enforcement. At the time of Miss Taylor's disappearance, Rex Heuermann worked in the same vicinity as where Miss Taylor was known to street walk, i.e. work as a sex worker. Records seized during the execution of prior search warrants reveal Heuermann was in fact present in Midtown Manhattan on July 21st, 2003, the same date Miss Taylor disappeared. Poughkeepsie. 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 All right. No, I keep saying ski. Poughkeepsie. All right. It's one that I'll get wrong continually. All right. So on July 26, 2003, and in the days thereafter, members of the Suffolk County PD canvassed the area around Halsey Manor Road, Manorville, in the vicinity of where Miss Taylor's remains have been found. As a result, investigators spoke to a witness who had, on July 25th, 2003, at approximately 10:30, observed a dark-coloured Chevrolet pickup truck backed into the same wooded area where Miss Taylor's body was later found. Based upon their investigation, law enforcement determined that these observations would have occurred at approximately 13 hours before Witness 1's 911 call. So the remains that were dumped there had only been there, a matter of probably hours. Maybe the body, the date she disappeared was 21st of July. So the Chevrolet truck's seen in that location on July 25th. And then 13 hours later, witness 1 discovers the body. So, you know, I don't know whether he'd kept her alive for a while or what, I don't know. But she'd not been dead long, which is obviously good for the investigation because they get a lot better forensics. You know, the Gilgo 4, their remains were basically skeletonized. So, you know, bones can't give up as many, you know, secrets as a whole body can. Okay, so notably, the investigation today had established that defendant Heuermann purchased a 2002 dark-coloured Chevrolet Avalanche pickup truck on or about March 22nd, 2002, from Ramp Chevrolet in Port Jefferson Station, New York. Accordingly, on July 25th, 2003 at 10:30 p.m., defendant Heuermann would have been in possession of a vehicle matching the description of the one observed in the vicinity where Miss Taylor's remains had been found on Halsey Manor Road. The forensic analysis of Rex Heuermann's digital devices also revealed the following. 1. That on or about July 28th, 2003, Rex Heuermann accessed a Newsday article entitled "Cops Seek Help in IDing Manorville Body" regarding the discovery of Miss Taylor's remains. That online activity was subsequently deleted. And 2, on or about July 29th, 2003, Rex Heuermann conducted an internet search for a new Chevrolet Avalanche, despite his 2002 Avalanche being just over 1 year old. It's amazing what this task force have been able to dig up, you know, from that many years ago, that they've been able to basically retrace his entire life going back over 20 years. It's very good. It's an excellent investigation. The analysis further shows Heuermann also attempted to delete this search for a new vehicle. Notably, this activity occurred just days after Miss Taylor was discovered and just days after a witness observed a vehicle matching the physical description of Heuermann leaving the scene. So what have we got here? All right, so we've got, so this is the blue one. And then that's when it was accessed and then deleted. Great. Fantastic. Thought he was so clever. And he was. He was for a long time. And they've had to go along and unravel. That task force has had to go along and basically unravel Rex Heuermann's entire life. You know, all the tracks that he's tried to cover and all of it. Finally, while the make and model of the vehicle Heuermann searched for is the same as his 2002 vehicle, Chevrolet Avalanche pickup truck, the exterior colour is different, i.e. arrival blue, see embedded image below, as well as another in Summit White, which are significantly brighter exterior paint offerings by Chevrolet when compared to Heuermann's dark green 2002 Chevrolet Avalanche. So let's get the same truck, maybe because he likes that truck, I don't know, but maybe get the same truck, and then if anybody says, oh, have you got a new truck? It can just say, no, and they'll say, well, is it a different colour? And he say, well, you must be mistaken. I don't know. Maybe he just likes that truck. All right, hers recovered from the remains of Jessica Taylor. During the course of this investigation, Miss Taylor's body was examined by a forensic scientist with the Suffolk County Crime Laboratory, here in SCCL, which is harder to say, the Suffolk County Crime Lab. I'm just going to call it the Crime Lab, which revealed that Miss Taylor had been decapitated, dismembered at her arms below the elbow, and revealed irregular disruption of the victim's nipples and obliteration of her tattoo. During the examination of Miss Taylor's body, a male human hair was recovered, specifically from a surgical drape that had been underneath the victim, hereinafter male hair underneath Taylor. A subsequent examination of the male hair underneath Taylor led to the determination that it was a human head hair with Caucasian-European characteristics. However, it was, based on the DNA testing capabilities of the crime lab, unsuitable for further DNA testing at the time. You see, all these guys who've been committing these murders from years back, and cops have been stymied by, they've got evidence, but they can't test it because they know that the tests aren't good enough yet. And they save that DNA. They do exactly the right thing. They don't try and destroy the sample. They save it, and they wait, and they wait, and they wait, and they wait until technology catches up. And guess what? Now it has. Now it has. Oh, the Chevy Avalanche can access the pickup bed from inside the cab. Maybe that's why he likes that truck then. Maybe. I'm going to mod you to CW and Flicking as well, because your mod's on the other channel. Just noticed that you're both in chat, so I might as well do it while you're here. There we go. All right. So, on or about August 24th, 2023, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force brought a cutting of the male hair underneath Taylor to an outside forensic lab, previously referred to in Exhibit A as Forensic Laboratory Number 2, which specializes in forensic mitochondrial analysis. You've got two types of DNA in your body. You've got mitochondrial DNA, which is just a handful of genes that is passed down from your mother. So your mitochondrial DNA is from your mothers. It are passed down the female line. And then you've got the nuclear DNA, which is a combination of your father and your mother's DNA. So it's easy to test mitochondrial DNA, because there's only a few genes involved. But obviously, nuclear DNA is the desired. That's what they really want to test because there's so much more information in it. So they brought this male hair that was found under Jessica Taylor to a forensic lab, and that lab issued a report concluding that the mitochondrial DNA profile developed from the male hair underneath Taylor and the profile developed from defendant's buccal swab, which is the swab from inside of his cheek, are the same, specifically at a rate that would, as per the MPOP database. So MPOP database is shorthand for the European DNA Profile Group Mitochondrial DNA Population Database, which is a web-based collection of human mitochondrial sequence data from various populations worldwide. The North American database includes 12,386 sequences of North American forensic significance. And the nipples thing, they think, wasn't something that was just natural as a decomp because the body hadn't been dead very long. One possible cause of such disruption is a post-mortem mutilation of the victim's nipples. Why? We've no idea. No idea. Okay. Where were we? There. Okay, so this comparison between the mitochondrial DNA on the male hair underneath Jessica Taylor and Rex Heuermann excludes 99.96% of the North American population as the contributor of said hair recovered underneath the decapitated and dismembered remains of Jessica Taylor. while 99.96% of the North American population can be excluded. As a contributor of the male hair underneath Taylor, defendant Heuermann cannot be excluded as the contributor of said hair recovered under the remains of Jessica Taylor. But that wouldn't be, that's not good enough. Like for a defense attorney, they'll say, well, what about that, 0.04 chance that it's someone else other than Rex Heuermann who has a similar mitochondrial pattern? Right? It could be a relative, a distant relative from, his female side of the family. Could well be. However, although mitochondrial DNA is easier to test, what they really want is nuclear DNA to be tested. That's the thing that really seals the deal for me. Remember with Kohlberger, the nuclear DNA comparison of Kohlberger's buccal swab with the DNA found on the knife sheath, it was 5 and 27 zeros. Right? The likelihood that this was Kohlberger, rather than anybody else in the population. Well, these numbers here get even crazier. The amount of zeros gets insane. So, on or about March the 8th, 2024, just a couple of months ago, the Gilgore Homicide Task Force brought a cutting of the male hair underneath Taylor and a DNA extract of Rex Heuermann's buccal swab to an outside independent lab previously referred to as in Exhibit A, so that was the earlier bail application, stroke PCA, as Forensic Laboratory 1, which applies DNA techniques and direct genome sequencing in difficult-to-solve forensic casework and identification of human remains. So this is cutting-edge technology. This is the best of the best of the best of the best. Why buy the same car? Because, he didn't. He bought the same make and model, but in a different colour. And perhaps he liked that make and model. Someone above, in the chat above, said you can access the bed of the truck from the cab. Maybe you like that idea. In other words, the hair cannot come from anyone else. Yes. When you've got numbers that astronomical, whether it's from a hair, whether it's from touch DNA, whether it's from blood or any other bodily fluid, doesn't matter where it comes from. It's undeniable. It's undeniable that it's the same person. So, on or about April 29th, 2024, Forensic Lab 1 issued a report indicating it had developed a nuclear DNA profile for not only the male hair underneath Taylor, but also from Rex Heuermann's buccal swab. Forensic Lab 1 was then able to conduct a 1-to-1 autosomal nuclear DNA comparison between said profile developed from the male hair underneath Taylor and Rex Heuermann's SNP genotype file developed from his buccal swab. So it's the development of SNP technology, which is single nucleotide polymorphism technology, that is enabling these very accurate comparisons to be made. Which resulted in the conclusion that the DNA profile generated from the male hair underneath Taylor is 1.837 times 10 to the 603rd power. That is 603 zeros. What was his childhood like? I'd love to know. Don't know anything about his childhood. So when the comparison with Kohlberger's buccal swab And the DNA found on the knife sheath in the Idaho case, that was convincing enough that it had a number with 27 zeros behind it. But a number with 603 zeros behind it, there is no word. There's no word for that number. That number is so large. There is no word to describe it. Like a billion has 9 zeros behind it. This is the, if you think about how large a billion is, life on Earth's been around for like, what, 1 billion years. That's huge. It's a huge number. But when you look at a number like 10 to the 603rd power, a number that has 603 zeros behind it, there is no word to describe it. Okay. So a number with 603 zeros behind it times more likely to have come from a person genetically identical to Rex Heuermann's SNP genotype file than from an unrelated individual. That Heuermann's. Oh, I can't wait for the person to come along and say, it was planted. It was planted. Someone has been on a 30-year campaign to frame Rex Heuermann. It was planted. Okay. That's just insane. 600 zeros. 600 zeros. It's nuts. It's nuts. Anyway, Heuermann's family travel in relation to the disappearance of Jessica Taylor. As part of the ongoing investigation, the Gilgore Homicide Task Force also established the Heuermann's wife and children were out of state at the time of Miss Taylor's disappearance. Now, his children would only have been young in 2003. That's 21 years ago. So the kids I know the daughter works with him, or did work with him. But they would only been quite small children at the time. I don't know exactly how old they are. Which is consistent theme attributable to the defendant for each of the charged homicides thus far. So the Gilgore 4. Which would have allowed the defendant unfettered time and opportunity to execute these crimes. So he did these horrific murders while he had the house to himself. Specifically, in 2002-2003, defendant Heuermann's daughter Victoria was a kindergarten student at the McKenna Elementary School located in Massapequa Park, New York. At the time, Victoria was classmates with an individual whose identity is also known to law enforcement, hereinafter witness 2. Based on post-arrest interviews with witnesses, including witness 2's family and Victoria Heuermann, the Gilgore Homicide Task Force has learnt that at the conclusion of the kindergarten school year, Miss Ellerup, who is Rex's wife, and her 2 children vacationed with witness 2's family from on or about July 20th, 2003, through on or about July 27th, 2003, at Smuggler's Notch Resort, which is located in Jeffersonville. What's that? VT? Is that Vermont? VT. Rex Heuermann did not attend the trip. So, you go on along, you take the children on a nice vacation. I've got to work. So yes, it is Vermont. Thank you. I've got to work that week, but you feel free to go ahead. Got some murdering to do. I mean, the amount of work I keep saying this, I'm astonished. All these people that they've managed to track down after like 20 odd years. Smugglers make fabulous gin. Well, maybe that's why she went. I don't know. These witness accounts have been corroborated via telephone records and electronic data seized during the execution of the July 2023 search warrants. For example, agents of the Gilgore Homicide Task Force seized AT&T records, which detail calls made to and from the Heuermann residence in July 2003. These records show that during the aforementioned family vacation, the landline telephone associated with the Heuermann residence, which was located at 105 First Avenue, Massapequa Park, New York, hereinafter target residence, made several phone calls to a telephone number bearing an 802 area code. Further investigation tied this phone number to Smuggler's Notch Resort. Thus, investigators believe defendant Heuermann made these calls from target residence in Massapequa Park to his family staying in Jeffersonville, Vermont. So this is AT&T long distance services. Oof, $108. Oh, that's a lot, isn't it? For like 2003, what would it be in these days? All right. So we can safely say that the wife wasn't involved. She was not involved in this murder, at least. The Gilgore Homicide Task Force also seized phone records attributable to Heuermann's Manhattan business, RH Consultants and Associates. These records further corroborate Heuermann's stay in New York and the family's travel to Jeffersonville, Vermont, as Heuermann's work landline makes numerous calls during the same week, July 20th to 27th, 2003, from Manhattan to the Smuggler's Notch Resort. So he's calling them from work as well as home. Interesting. You know, might just want to talk to his wife and his kids, or might be, I don't know, establishing an alibi. I was working that entire week. I wasn't doing anything like murdering anyone. I was working the entire week. I was tied to my office. That's what I was doing. Okay. Finally, in July 2023, the Gilgore Homicide Task Force seized a hard drive from the basement of target residence. An extraction and analysis of that hard drive revealed that it contained a Palm Pilot backup file, which appeared to contain defendant Heuermann's date book or calendar for relevant dates. The Gilgore Homicide Task Force subsequently hired a digital forensics expert who, by utilizing native Palm software, was able to convert the above data into a readable format. So, date book. So, Sunday 7th, wife in Vermont at Smugs. Wife in Vermont at Smugs. So, he has to put that in his diary, what, to remind him that, oh, I can do some murdering that week. I'm going to put that in my work diary to remind me to do some murdering. Weird. What a weirdo. What a weirdo. All right. Based on the foregoing, the investigation to date has clearly established defendant Heuermann's wife and children were indeed located out of state during the time of Jessica Taylor's disappearance, which occurred on or about July 21st, 2003. Accordingly, the murders of all four charged victims and now the murder of Miss Taylor occurred at times when defendant Heuermann's wife and children were located out of state, which would have allowed defendant Heuermann unfettered time to execute his plans for Miss Taylor, which included the decapitation, dismemberment, and transportation of her remains without any fear that his family would uncover or learn of his involvement in these crimes. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the £5. You're very welcome. I know a lot of people like these read-throughs. I like listening to people reading stuff. I often, even when I've done a read-through, like for myself, I like to listen to someone else reading it to me. Okay, so the 1993 discovery of the human remains of Sandra Costilla. So this is like over 30 years ago that her body was recovered. So sad that her murder has gone unsolved for all that time. Anyway, on or about November 20th, 1993, two individuals, while hunting in a wooded area of Southampton in the vicinity of 50 Old Fish Cove Road, Northsea, Suffolk County. All this is in the same county. All this work is being done by just one county. Can you imagine the strain that they've been under? It's just one county. Imagine what they're going to find when they branch this investigation out. Imagine. Okay, so these two hunters discovered the remains of Sandra. She was born in 1965. The victim had been 28 years old at the time, lying on her back with her arms outstretched over her head and her uncovered legs spread apart. The victim's shirt had been pulled up over her torso and head, exposing the victim's breasts. The victim had numerous sharp force injuries to, inter alia, her face, torso, breast, left thigh, and vaginal area. Miss Costilla was a native of Trinidad and Tobago, but had been living in New York prior to her disappearance and murder. So there's quite a lot of disfigurement and stuff done to her. So again, he leaves hairs. It's not as clinical. Thankfully, they always leave a little bit of evidence behind. So hairs recovered from the remains of Sandra Costilla. During the course of the 1993 investigation, Miss Costilla's body was examined by forensic scientists within the Suffolk County Crime Lab, which led to the recovery of 3 hairs from the victim's remains. One from her right arm, so female hair on Costilla, one from a tape lift of the striped shirt above her head, hereinafter male hair on Costilla. So I'm going to call them all that. As well as one from the tape lift of the white shirt above the victim's head. Okay. Hereinafter unidentified hair, Costilla. In 2014, well before the identification of Rex Heuermann as a suspect in Miss Costilla's murder, the hairs were sent to Laboratory 2, so Forensic Lab 2, which was able to develop unique mitochondrial DNA profiles for each of the hairs. On or about August 1st, 2014, Forensic Lab 2 received an extract of John Bitrolf's buccal swab. So I don't know who this dude is. It must have been like a suspect in the case. If anybody knows this case, like previous to Rex Heuermann, I assume he was a suspect. I don't know whether it was like a boyfriend or something, or I don't know, maybe someone she was living with. But Forensic Lab 2 was then able to develop a mitochondrial DNA profile from his buccal swab and subsequently compared it to the mitochondrial DNA profile that had been previously generated for each of the hairs on Costilla. At the conclusion of its analysis, Forensic Lab 2 was able to exclude John Bitrolf and his maternal relatives as contributors of the hairs on Costilla. So it wasn't him, wasn't his hair. Recently, the Gilgore Homicide Task Force requested Forensic Lab 2 to undergo forensic testing, specifically comparing mitochondrial DNA profiles for each of the hairs on Costilla. So remember, they already had these. They already did this work in 2014. It's just been sitting there waiting for a new suspect. Waiting for a new suspect. Okay. Prior to Heuermann emerging as a suspect, to known samples provided by the Gilgore Homicide Task Force On or about February 29th, 2024, Forensic Lab 2 issued a report concluding that the mitochondrial DNA profile developed from the male hair on Costilla and the profile developed from defendant's buccal swab are the same, specifically at a rate that would, as per the MPOP database, so that's the mitochondrial database, exclude 99.96 of the North American population as a contributor of the aforementioned hair recovered on the mutilated remains of Sandra. Based on the foregoing, whilst 99.96 of the North American population can be excluded as a contributor of the male hair, defendant Heuermann cannot be excluded as a contributor. However, I want a little bit more. Do they have any more? I think they do. All right. Prior to Miss Costilla's disappearance and murder, defendant Heuermann had been living with a female individual whose identity is known to law enforcement hereinafter witness 3. So there was someone, I don't know whether it was a lodger or a family member, but there was another woman living with Rex Heuermann in 1993. Was it a girlfriend? Don't know when did him and Asa Ellerup get together? Maybe it was a past girlfriend. I don't know. The ID of this female individual has not been disclosed. Not as far as I know, anyway. T-Rex. Yeah, he is. He is. Dear me. Dear me. During the course of this investigation, the Gilgore Homicide Task Force was able to secure a buccal swab from witness 3, which was secured via her consent. Can you imagine that? Having lived, he had a first wife. Oh, well, there you go. That's her then, presumably. So imagine that. Imagine that, being in a relationship with this monster 30 years ago, and the cops turn up at your door and say, oh, by the way, we suspect the man that you had a relationship with 30 years ago is actually a serial killer. Can you imagine what that must be like? You'd be like, what? Are you kidding? What day is it? It's not April Fool's Day, is it? Yeah, it's weird. All right. So, on or about March 29th, 2024, the Gilgore Homicide Task Force brought a DNA extract of witness 3's buccal swab to Forensic Lab 2 for further analysis. On or about May 8th, 2024, Forensic Lab was issued a report concluding that the mitochondrial DNA profile developed from witness 3's buccal swab and the profile developed from the female hair on Costilla's share a common base for all compared positions, specifically at a rate that would, as per the MPOP database, exclude 99.98 of the North American population as a contributor of said hair recovered on the mutilated remains of Sandra Costilla. So we've got a male hair on her body that does not exclude Rex Heuermann, and we've also got a female hair on the victim's body which doesn't exclude witness 3, who maybe his first wife. So someone living in his home. So, yeah, so whoever planted Rex Heuermann's hair also planted his first wife's hair. Yeah, it didn't happen, did it? Because the killer's him. Because the killer's him. Wow. Wow. While 99.98 of the North American population can be excluded as the contributor of the female hair on Costilla, witness 3, who had but no longer resided at target residence prior to Miss Costilla's disappearance and murder, cannot be excluded as the contributor of said hair recovered on Miss Costilla. Okay, so on or about March 8th, 2024, now we get into some astronomically massive numbers. the Gilgore Homicide Task Force brought a cutting of the hairs on Costilla as well as DNA extract of witness 3's buccal swab to Forensic Lab 1 for further independent analysis. On or about April 29, 2024, Forensic Lab 1 issued a report indicating its ability to develop a DNA profile, so a nuclear DNA profile, for the male hair on Costilla. Forensic Lab 1 was then able to conduct a one-to-one autosomal nuclear DNA comparison between said profile developed from the male hair to Rex Heuermann's SNP genotype file developed from his buccal swab, which resulted in the conclusion that the DNA profile generated from the male hair on Costilla, which was recovered from her mutilated remains, is 4.347 times 10 to the 332nd power. So again, we've got astonishing numbers here. So we've got here a number which has got 332 zeros behind it. Again, there's no word for it. No word for numbers that big. His first marriage was 1990 to 1993. Okay, so it could have been his first wife. Doesn't really matter who it was, just that someone living in his house just happened to have transferred a hair onto Rex Heuermann, or if the victim was murdered in the house, then her directly transferred from, you know, the house, like a carpet or a bed, a couch, whatever, onto her body. All right, so again, an astonishingly high number. So 10 with 332 zeros times more likely to have come from a person genetically identical to Rex Heuermann's SNP genotype file than from an unrelated individual. So, I mean, it's just astonishing. Astonishing. We got even bigger number here. We get an even bigger number. Forensic Lab 1 was also able to generate nuclear DNA profiles from not only the extract from witness 3's buccal swab, but also from the female hair on Costilla. Forensic Lab 1 was then able to conduct a one-to-one autosomal DNA comparison between said profile developed from witness 3's buccal swab to the SNP genotype profile developed from the female hair on Costilla, which resulted in the conclusion that the DNA profile generated from the female hair on Costilla was 4.578 times 10 to the 1040th power. So you've got a number that has got more than 1,000 zeros behind it. What? How can you have a number with over 1,000 zeros? Yeah, a Google. Yeah, a Google. It's a Google is one with 100 zeros behind it. Yeah, I knew that. A Googleplex is one with a Google of zeros behind it. They're going to have to start developing some new words. Is there any suggestion that he murdered anyone in the house, garage, or anywhere on the property? Yes, there absolutely is. They're going to have to develop some new words. Based on the foregoing, it's significant that 2 forensic labs have now independently determined that male hair recovered from the mutilated remains of Sandra Costilla is substantially more likely to have derived from a person genetically identical to defendant Heuermann's mitochondrial and nuclear profiles. Additionally, both labs were also able to forensically tie witness 3, who resided at target residence prior to Miss Cosilla's disappearance and murder, to the female hair recovered on Miss Cosilla's remains. The foregoing provides further support that Rex Heuermann mutilated, murdered, and transported the body of Sandra to Southampton. So the chart below summarises the results from Forensic Lab 1 and Forensic Lab 2, which each individually have been able to determine that hairs recovered on now 5 of the 6 charged victims were forensically tied to defendant Heuermann, members of his immediate family, or individuals with whom Heuermann resided, lending further support to the conclusion that defendant Heuermann is the individual who murdered, stripped, restrained, and transported the remains of Jessica Taylor and Sandra Costilla, as well as the Gilgo 4, until they were each discovered in 1993, 2003, 2010, and 2011. So those are so we've got Sandra with 10 to the 332, 10 to the 1040. We've got Jessica Taylor, 10 to the 603, Maureen Brainard Barnes, 7.9 trillion times more likely to come from an individual with an identical profile as Asa Ellerup. Then we've got Megan Waterman, 10 to the 48th power times more likely to come from an individual with a genetic profile as Asa Ellerup. We've got Megan Waterman again, the second of 2 female hairs, 10 to the 480th power times more likely to come from an individual with an identical profile as Asa Ellerup. You see, she's got long hair. She's going to be leaving hairs all over the place. Again, Megan Waterman, male hair, 10 to the 169th power times more likely to come from an individual with an identical genetic profile of Rex Heuermann. Amber Costello, the female hair, so 10 to the 63rd power times more likely to come from an individual with the identical profile of Victoria Heuermann, so that's his daughter. So you're essentially tying 5 of the 6 victims with hair, with astonishing figures, you know, when the DNA profile is compared to 4 different people connected to Rex Heuermann. I mean, one's Rex, and then you've got witness 3, who's potentially his first wife. You've got witness 2. You've got Asa, who's wife 2, and then you've got Rex's daughter. So 4 different people connected to those victims' bodies via their hairs. And the only person that had the availability and opportunity to commit those murders wasn't the women or the little girl, it was him. It was him. All right, so now we get into the horrors that happened at the target residence. So the little rundown, ramshackle house. We get to know some of the horrors. I think they've probably found more stuff that's just massively concerning, but who knows? Who knows? So Heuermann's unfettered access to target residence, which is his home, during the disappearance and murder of Sandra Costilla. As noted supra, based on post-arrest interviews and with witnesses, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has learnt that witness 3 and defendant Heuermann began living together at target residence in 1991. In September 1993, approximately 2 months before Miss Cosilla's disappearance and murder, witness 3 moved out of the target residence. So obviously, she left hers behind. She left hers behind. Prior to witness 3 leaving target residence, Heuermann's mother had moved out of target residence. So his mother was also living there as well. Wow. Wow. So basically, maybe this is the first time. So 1993 is the first time he's had that house all to himself. Let's imagine, because previous to that, his mother was living there. So it's a family home. Witness 3 is possibly his mother. No, prior to witness 3 leaving, Heuermann's mother had moved out. So witness 3 and his mother are 2 different people. So you've got his mother moving out, and then you've got witness 3 moving out. So they are 2 separate people. So this is the first time he's had the house all to himself. So perhaps if he's committed offences before, he's done it away from the house. If he's done it before, 1993 might have been his first shot at murder. Maybe. I think there was a lot going on before this. It remains to be seen. It might be, you know, prior crimes never get pinned on him. But I don't think you just wake up one morning and just decide to be a serial killer. I don't think you do. So, live with his mother till 1993. Mother moves out. I don't know, maybe getting older. Maybe, I don't know. Because it was his mother's house, I believe. And then he's living there with witness 3. And then she moves out. So he's got the house to himself. So he thinks, party at Rex's place. That's what he thinks. I believe truly that what they've got here so far with these 6 murders is the tip of a massive iceberg. I think, personally, this is just my opinion, I think he was killing before this, or committing very, very serious offences before this. I think this, 1993, is just the first time he's been able to have the house to himself and, you know, conduct maybe a killing that really excited him. Because there's still unidentified remains from Gilgo Beach. How old is he? 60. There's still the unidentified young man that was found. And then you've got the unidentified woman and her baby, a toddler. The remains of a toddler who is genetically, you know, a close relative of the woman. They're still to be identified. So a young Asian man, a woman, and the baby are still unidentified. And that's just at Gilgo Beach. That's just one dump site. We now have learnt from these murders that there's another dump site. These are in Manorville. Well, one in Southampton and one in Manorville. So he was using other dump sites in addition to Gilgo Beach. I think there's many more. You got to remember that he owns a 40-acre property in one of the Carolinas. I don't know if it's North Carolina or South Carolina. He owns a property. It's joint ownership between him and his brother. So a 40-acre property. What can you do on a 40-acre property in the middle of nowhere? South Carolina, thank you. What can you do in the middle of nowhere? I bet there's remains all over that property. Thank you so much. Usura Brune. I can't say that. I'm really sorry. Thank you for the $5. That's very kind of you. No notification. Good job, I'm a creep. That's funny. He has a place in NV. What's NV? NV. I don't know NV. It's placed there as well. Visited. Oh, Nevada. Thank you. So he's also got a place in Nevada. Visited Alaska, Florida. He's got links with Virginia as well. I don't know about Nova Scotia, but there's a whole bunch of young women, sex workers that were murdered in Canada. I did one of the Cold Case Christmas episodes about them this year, or last year, 2023. So Cold Case Christmas 2023. It's Cassie snoring. I know most of them. I know most of the state abbreviations. Have I looked into Karen Reid? Yeah, I've been closely following the Karen Reid trial. I've talked about Karen Reid a lot in recent, like since the trial. I'm not doing like standalone videos about her, but I'm talking about her. Didn't he go to Las Vegas at some point? Well, that'll be the Nevada residence. As Las Vegas is in Nevada. Yeah, the Asian male's probably a sex worker, yeah. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of women murdered in Canada, and so far there's absolutely no leads into who murdered them, and they go back a long time. Okay, let's get back into this. All right, so based on the foregoing, neither Heuermann's mother nor witness 3 were living at the target residence during the time of Sandra Costilla's murder. Accordingly, the murders of all 4 charged victims, and now the murders of Miss Taylor and Miss Costilla, occurred at times when defendant Heuermann would have unfettered time to execute his plans for each victim without any fear that his family or others residing at target residence would uncover or learn of his involvement in these crimes. Newly discovered digital evidence. Yeah, it is only a part-time job watching Karen Reid. Do one day off, and then they have a week off, and then they're in for a couple of days, and then they have another day off, and then they do a half day. We'll be here this time next year. So, newly discovered digital evidence. As detailed in Exhibit A, which is the Gilgo 4, following Heuermann's arrest, numerous search warrants were executed at target residence, which culminated in the seizure of over 350 electronic devices. Who has 350 electronic devices? Who has all that lot? In the months subsequent to Heuermann's arrest, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has attempted to extract and analyse data from each of these devices. And it's ongoing, according to the press conference yesterday. This is all still ongoing. So they've not got through like all of it. I mean, come on, 350 electronic devices, some of which is encrypted. So some of which they may not even crack into. But there's so much more to come out. So much more. So an analysis of these devices has revealed Heuermann's significant collection of violent bondage and torture porn, currently dating back to 1994. I bet you don't just wake up one morning and think, oh, I know what, I'm going to develop an interest in torture porn today. It develops over a period of time. So, you know, he was 30 in 1994. So, yeah, what was he doing for the first 30 years? Pornographic images accessed by human included, but not limited to, breast mutilation, vaginal torture, sex substitution, so penetration with an object, the sexualization of decapitated women, bondage and whipping, which notably and largely coincide with how the remains of Sandra Costilla and Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack were discovered. Now, Valerie Mack is someone who is not yet been charged with. He's a suspect in escalation, not yet been charged in, but she was found in the same area as these women. So she wasn't I think she was in the same area as these women. Was she one of the Gilgo ones? No, she's not one of the Gilgo ones. Or is she? I can't remember. Anyway. So Valerie Mack, he's a suspect, but she's not been charged with her yet. I think he will be. Moreover, during the analysis of a hard drive recovered from the basement of Heuermann's residence, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force recently discovered a Microsoft Word document entitled HK 2002-04. So HK, I wonder what HK stands for. Heuermann killings? I don't know. This document was discovered in unallocated space. Allocated space refers to stored data on a computer that's using files viewable and able to be opened by the user. On the other hand, unallocated space refers to available or unstructured data, which is not readily viewable and able to be opened by the user. Unallocated space frequently contains room for new data or old data that has been deleted, sent to the recycle bin, overwritten, etc. For example, when a user deletes data, many users believe the file has been purged forever. No. However, deleting a file only tells the computer that the space previously occupied by that file is now available. The deleted data will remain in unallocated space until another file is written over it. Data contained within unallocated space can be retrieved via a computer forensic extraction method called file carving. Don't think because you delete your work, the cops ain't going to find it. If you're doing stuff like this, don't write anything down. That would be really silly. But Rex, on the other hand, so forensic analysis of HK 2002-04 document reveals that it was not only a locally created draft, i.e. not downloaded from the internet, but also recovered from a hard drive that indicates it was utilized by Heuermann himself. While the original document appears to have been created in 2000 based on its original title, HK 2000-2003, this iteration of the Word document, titled HK 2002-4, appears to have been created and modified between 2001 and 2002. Based on the foregoing and the facts set forth, the task force members believe 2000 or 2002 to be referenced to calendar years. The task force members also believe, based on the foregoing and the facts set forth, the Microsoft Word document to be a planning document utilized by Heuermann to methodically blueprint or plan out his kills. Hereafter, HK, planning document. I bet it's Heuermann kills. I bet you HK is Heuermann kills. So that's Exhibit B. The HK planning doc begins with a 4-category section with the underlined headings of problems, supplies, DS, and TRG. Let's look at what they mean. So no alterations other than the addition of call-out boxes, where applicable, have been made to excerpts. The document portrayed in the same manner as it was recovered from the unallocated space, with no changes in formatting or spelling. So basically, they're saying we didn't write any of this really rubbish spelling. We didn't do that. Okay. So problems that he might encounter. Problems that might get him caught, maybe. DNA, tyre marks, bloodstains, fingerprints. MO, plastic bag - cat litter. Witness, trace sources of supplies. Foot and shoe prints, photos, misleaders, ? Police stop, truck stuck, fingerprints in gloves, plastic bags matched to box, hair and fibre. Should have taken more notice of hair and fibre. Should have put it to the top, because it's that's got him. Supplies, booties, lye, acid, police scanner, rope or cord, saw, cutting tools, hair nets, photo film, burn can, foam drain cleaner. So he's putting stuff down the drains. He's probably bleeding them out or something. Body wash. That's right. I think you're going to need more than body wash and wipes after all that cleanup. Tarps, drop clothes, medical gloves, bags and tape, large electrical clips. Don't even ask. Wretched cargo strap. DS, which are dump sites. DS stands for dump sites. So, dump site 1, Mill Road. Dump site 2, undecided yet, ? Dumpster site, next time recon dumpster locations. Targets, target 1, Megan, ? Small is good. Target 2 is unknown, so target unknown. Black, so he's looking for someone black. Is that a black person? He wants to kill a black person. Is that what we're saying here? Not got a target in mind yet, but black. I don't know. So, based on the Gilgore Homicide Task Force training experience, the members believe problems to be a guide, issues to avoid apprehension, supplies to be a reference to what supplies are needed to carry out these murders, to avoid apprehension, and to avoid leaving behind DNA evidence. Needed to work harder, must try harder. DS heading appears to be an acronym for dump site, which is corroborated by the discoveries of Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor at 2 separate dump sites in the vicinity of Mill Road and Ocean Parkway. Under that same heading, in a note regarding dumpster sites, which the task force members believe is a reference to how Heuermann disposed of physical evidence in the manner described. See dispose of the following section below. Target appears to be a reference to target or victim. It's important to note that the known victims thus far are all petite women, which is consistent with small is good in the document, lending further support to the aforementioned conclusion that target refers to victims or targets. And, one of the victims is Megan. Her name's Megan Waterman. How did he manage to keep it a secret from his family? Well, how did he manage to go about, having a very successful business? How did he go on to be just a quiet member of the community? Right? Nobody suspected a thing. Literally leading a double life. These guys that are able to basically dissociate one life from another and plan it out well are the ones that go on to be serial killers. We'd have many, many more serial killers were it not for the fact that so many criminals are dumb And so many criminals are not able to plan to this extent. You know, they get caught the first or second time. So they don't make it into the halls of fame of serial killers. Doesn't mean to say that they're any less dangerous. It just means that they were caught. So with regards to the DS section, so dump sites of the document, it's important to note that the human remains of Jessica Taylor discovered in 2003, as well as the remains of Valerie Mack discovered in 2000, were dumped in 2 locations, one of those locations being in the vicinity of Mill Road, which is listed as DS1 Mill Road. On March 29th, 2011, Miss Taylor's torso, skull and hands recovered near Ocean Parkway, i.e. a second dump site. So he was going to put remains in 2 dump sites. Right, so Mill Road is going to be dump site 1, and then the head and the arms are going to be at dump site 2, and at this point he hadn't decided which. What happens to these people's minds? Yeah, good question. Good question. Oh, so that makes sense. So on April 4th, 2011, Miss Mack's skull, hands and right foot were also recovered near Ocean Parkway, also a second dump site. I don't think all of her body has been found. I think she's one that's still partial remains, maybe. Perhaps. Okay, so the recent discovery of this document prompted the April 2024 cadaver search of the Manorville area, which did not yield the recovery of additional sets of human remains, thereby reinforcing the task force members' belief that the HK planning document referred to Heuermann's preparation of either Jessica Taylor and or Valerie Mack. So not been charged yet with Valerie Mack, but he is a suspect. They just haven't charged him yet. Maybe just collecting more evidence. But it's interesting that he's got Megan question mark here. I mean, Megan was one of his victims, but they're saying that this perhaps wasn't related to her. I mean, I don't know. Must have been at some point. I don't know. Anyway, HK planning document on Heuermann's computer then delves into a 3-category section with the headings pre-prep, prep, and post-event. Okay, so pre-prep, vehicle inspection. You don't want to break down. Are you listening, Stefan Stearns? You don't want to break down after, change tires and stuff. That's going to get you caught. Engage target 1. Recon dump site 1. Locate dump site 2. Weather report. You don't want to get rained on. Recon video cams. It is scary. It is scary. So have a drive around. Now remember, you're looking at, over 20 years ago. So yeah, video cameras were a thing. But, people didn't have Ring doorbells everywhere, did they? That wasn't common then. Recon pick zone for video cams. Prep. This is scary. Set up stage. Holding area. Build table. Crossbar and hard point. Unbelievable. Post event, destroy file. Change tires. Burn gloves. Dispose of pics. So he's taking pictures, and then later he's gonna destroy them, is he? Dispose of them. Take pictures and then dispose of them. Maybe you're just hide them somewhere. Maybe you're going to hide them somewhere. Destroy file. You didn't do that very well, did you? Have story set. So this is how he got away with it. Why would you need to write a note to yourself? Why would you need to write? I think he enjoyed writing these notes. I think he was fantasizing as he was writing these files, because you're not going to need to make notes to yourself to remind you to have a story set. This isn't about the planning per se. This is about fantasizing about the crimes he's going to commit by writing it all down. Yeah, reading and writing's part of the thrill. It is. It is. The Gilgore Homicide Task Force members believe pre-prep to be a guide on steps to take in advance of a homicide. Inspecting his vehicle, engaging the target, conducting a recon or survey of video surveillance cameras in pertinent areas, including the pick zone, i.e. location where a victim is picked up. Checking the weather to ensure for optimal conditions. Prep, on the other hand, appears to be reference to steps taken closer in times to the homicide, setting up the staging area, the holding area. What on earth? The table, crossbar, and hard point for the victim. So step stage, holding area, build table, crossbar, and hard point. The Gilgore Homicide Task Force members are aware that a crossbar is often placed underneath a table to provide further structural support for heavier objects being placed on the table. Additionally, the task force members are also aware that a hard point refers to a field in the sexual suspension bondage. Okay. To a fixed attachment point in the ceiling that supports the weight of an individual being suspended off the ground, which is corroborated by Heuermann's significant interest in pornography, where the subject is either suspended, tortured, bound to a table, decapitated, and/or their breasts are mutilated, which is consistent with the foregoing notations regarding suspension, as well as the conditions of the victims described herein. Additionally, post-event appears to reference a checklist of tasks following the event or homicide to avoid apprehension. Destroy file, change tires, burn gloves, dispose of pics taken of the victim, and have story set, e.g. alibi, story for family upon their return. Oh, just in case they call, maybe while he's out on a kill. So, you might say, oh, I had to work late, or, oh, I had to visit such a person. So you're going to, have your alibi. So you're not panicking on what to say. Or law enforcement, should an inquiry be made. The HK planning doc continues to further expound on preparatory measures, such as specific recon steps taken. See recon reports. Takedown pickup sections embedded below. Packaging a body for transport. Steps to inhibit victim identification and avoid leaving behind DNA evidence. All right, recon reports. Vid cams on Lie Route 112 to Route 110, 33. Vid cams on SS Parkway, Route 231 to exit, 30 equals 10. 110 equals 33 all. Oh, I had no idea. To exit 30 equals to... I've got it right. So 33 cameras there, 10 cameras there. Don't know what old means. Target 1 info, cell number. So he's got someone in mind here. Got the cell number. So they're already communicating. So he's already communicating with someone while he's planning to murder him. So I've got your voicemail. Takedown pickup. Hunt too long. Seen in area too long. So Don't hunt too long or be seen in the area too long. Remember, don't charge gas. Don't know what that means. Recon for video cameras in pickup area next time. So maybe these are things that he's panicked about, maybe things that he needs to do better next time. So don't stay too long next time. Maybe he felt that he stayed too long. Body prep. Wash body inside and all cavities. Remove trace evidence. Fingerprints and hair. Didn't do well at all on that one. Remove trace DNA. Remove ID marks, tattoo marks. Yeah, he did that to Jessica. Remove marks from torture. Tour. Remove head and hands. Package for transport. Dispose of the following: tools and devices. Target one clothes and personal items. Drop clothes, wipes and towels, props, toys and wood items. Anything that touched target one. What you wore. Remember to get rid of what you wore. Oh, charge gas on credit card. Yeah, okay. So pay cash for gas. Yeah. Destroy book and computer files. What book? Burn gloves. Dispose of box of plastic bags, probably, to avoid trace. The body prep section above includes a note to remove head and hands, which clearly relates to the condition of Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack's remains, as both victims were decapitated and dismembered at their arms below their elbows. Additionally, each of these victims' remains, as well as the remains of the Gilgo Four, were indeed packaged for transport, as this section indicates to do, further increasing the significance of this document's presence on Heuermann's laptop computer. Finally, this section also includes a note to remove ID marks. As noted, the examination of Miss Taylor's body in July 2003 indicated numerous sharp linear injuries to the victim's skin, specifically around where Miss Taylor's tattoo had been located, which investigators believe was intended to inhibit the identification of Miss Taylor's tattoo and therefore Miss Taylor in a manner consistent with the HK planning document. Were all the victims prostitutes? Yeah. There was one that wasn't thought to have been. I think that might have been Sandra. But I mean, we don't know. But yeah, that was his target. His target population was sex workers. Hunt kill, yeah, HK, yeah, it could be hunt kill document, could be. No, the child clearly won't. The child, I think the little baby maybe was just an inconvenience. Maybe woke up and started crying, or maybe she brought the kid along with her. I have no idea. No idea. But obviously the kid was in the way. Or maybe his perversions involve children. Who knows? We know very little about this man yet. Furthermore, the dispose of the following section lists destroy computer files as a checklist item. The presence of this HK planning doc in unallocated space demonstrates Heuermann's efforts to destroy or delete computer files in a manner that is consistent with this notation. As set forth in Exhibit A, a consistent theme of Heuermann's computer activity is the use of forensic wiping software. That doesn't work. Forensic wiping software. Come on. In a manner that is consistent with this notation. In the things to remember section, there are notes indicating steps to take next time, i.e. considering a hit to the face or neck next time, or use a heavier rope for the neck, as the light rope broke under stress of being tightened. Heuermann further opines on the importance of sleep, not only to avoid problems, but to increase what Heuermann refers to as playtime. So, things to remember. Sound travels, i.e. bird outside, control the amount of air in and out to control the noise made. Get sleep before hunt. Too tired creates problems. Hit harder. Too many hit to takedown. Consider a hit to the face or neck next time for takedown. So, I had to hit too many times to take them down. So do hits to the face, may take them down faster. More sleep and noise control equals more playtime. Use push pins to hang drop clothes from ceiling, not tape. Use heavy rope for neck. Light rope broke under stress of being tightened. Oh no. His rope broke. So bring a bigger rope next time. As set forth above and embedded below, the Gilgore Homicide Task Force members believe these references to next time indicate Heuermann's previous experience and what changes to implement moving forward. Takedown pickup. Hunt too long, seen in area too long. Remember, don't charge gas. Recon for VidCams in pickup area. Moreover, the references in the Things to Remember section to utilise push pins to hang drop clothes from ceiling, not tape, as well as manifested concerns regarding sound travel, indicate the referenced incidents would have occurred indoors and likely inside of target residence, which is a controlled environment that Heuermann would not only be familiar with, but also an area where Heuermann would have access to said tools and supplies. Drop cloths would also serve the twin purpose of limiting the spread of forensic evidence, such as blood, to a confined area, as well as controlling sound travel, which would lead to more playtime, which is believed to be a reference to sexual and mutilation acts perpetrated on victims. Additionally, with Heuermann's family vacationing out of state, defendant would have had unfettered time and exclusive access to the target residence, allowing defendant Heuermann ample opportunity to execute and clean up after these crimes. So he's tying like cloths to the walls, or in an area to easier cleanup and stuff. Finally, the planning doc on his laptop includes a notes section, like miscellaneous. All right, spur of the moment, cover, Stockholm Syndrome. The more you do, the more clues you give. Look at the painting. What, why, who? Organised versus disorganised. Page 162, sex substitution. Page 163, page 175, mutilation. I think that should say. Equals disorganised. I think that should say. The investigation to date has established the source of these notes, i.e. the Mindhunter paperback book authored by John Douglas, specifically the first edition published in 1996, concerning the criminal profiling of serial killers. So he's checking out what research has been done, what is known about serial killers. Got a note here, right. John Douglas is a retired special agent and profiler from the FBI who spent over 25 years in the FBI's behavioral analysis unit. During his time with the FBI, Douglas interviewed over a dozen serial killers and other violent sex offenders, which led to numerous publications, including the Mindhunter book. So he's been reading it. I think it's not so much for tips, it's for what people know, what the FBI knows about serial killers, because that'll give him ideas on how not to get caught. Okay, for example, the notes section of the planning document includes the following notation. Page 162, sex substitution. Page 162 of said book does indeed reference sex substitution, e.g. penetration with an object, as Douglas described the rather horrible sexual mutilation and masturbation over the victim's body, but no intercourse. The penetration with the umbrella and pen were acts of sex substitution. That's just a quote from the book. On page 163, Douglas opines that the perpetrator of such a crime would be a disorganized killer who would be compulsive and perhaps living with his parents. Accordingly, this notation contained in the HK planning doc is consistent with the aforementioned book in page number and subject matter. The notes section of the HK planning doc also includes the following notation, page 175, mutilation. In page 175 of the first edition of Mindhunter, Douglas describes a woman's screams and shortly thereafter how a woman's throat has been cut and her naked body mutilated. Douglas further asserts on 175 of said book the mutilation is a sign of disorganized personality type. Accordingly, this notation contained in the planning doc is again consistent with the aforementioned book in page number and subject matter. Okay. The notes section of the HK planning doc also contain the following. Look at the painting. What, why, who? On page 19 of said book, Douglas notes that while he was still at the FBI, he always advises agents, if you want to understand the artist, like the perpetrator, you have to look at the painting or the victim. We've looked at many paintings over the years and talked extensively to the most accomplished artists. Accordingly, the note above contained in Heuermann's laptop computer to look at the painting yet again points to the aforementioned book as a source of Heuermann's commentary. Finally, the other notations contained in the planning doc, i.e. spur of the moment, cover, Stockholm Syndrome, the more you do, the more clues you give, are also each contained in the book, all pointing to it as the source of Heuermann's notations. Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological condition that explains why victims or hostages can sometimes develop a psychological bond or empathy with their captor. Oh, God, you made me jump. God, he just walks in. He stood in the doorway. Instead of just walking through, he stands there. I turn right. I'm reading from an arrest thing for a serial killer, and you just stand there like a massive shadow.
I'm going.
Where are you off?
I went to Louise's.
Oh.
I've got to take her to the airport in the
Oh,
morning.
yeah, she's going again, isn't she?
Yeah. So,
How long is she going for?
3 weeks.
Right.
I'm back early in the morning.
All right. All right, see you later. Do you know what? I didn't even need to do any cleaning. I did not need to do any cleaning. He's gone out for the rest of the night now. I could have left it. Could have just left it till tomorrow. No, I had to rush and get it done. Anyhow. All right. So the foregoing is corroborated in part by Heuermann's possession of other serial killer books authored by John Douglas. Maybe Destroy the Book in these notes was about destroying the Mindhunter book. Maybe. And then he bought a new book. I don't know. During the initial search warrant execution in July 2023 at Target residence, the task force observed that Heuermann possessed in his home office the book entitled The Cases That Haunt Us, which outlines the facts, evidence, and victimology of several notable serial murder cases. Chambonnet Ramsey, isn't it? We don't know who murdered Chambonnet Ramsey. I don't know who that is. Lizzie Borden, who also wasn't a serial killer. Anyway. All right. The Gilgore Homicide Task Force members believe that the totality of circumstances surrounding the planning doc, including Heuermann's attempt to delete its existence, points to it as Heuermann's self-education and homework. His fantasy. This is his fantasy. This is his fantasy. It's not his homework, it's his fantasy. Of carrying out serial killer murders. Heuermann's pointed concerns regarding avoiding being captured on video surveillance, leaving behind forensic evidence, what supplies to purchase, how to package a body for subsequent transportation to dump sites, wash a body inside and all cavities prior to package for transport, avoiding a paper trail tying him to the crimes and or crime scenes, and concerns regarding noise and or air travel, which could inhibit playtime, and how to improve next time. Further confirm merely by looking within the four corners of the document itself its relevance in this regard. This belief is further corroborated when looking at a litany of external factors, including how the 6 victims, now attributable to Heuermann, were indeed packaged and transported, and in the case of Miss Taylor, how her head, hands, tattoo were removed and or obliterated, consistent with the document's instructions. Furthermore, an analysis of Heuermann's computers confirms the HK planning document was in unallocated space and had been deleted, which is consistent with not only the destroy computer files notation, but also Heuermann's established use of forensic wiping software. Dear me. Dear me. So, if convicted of the current charges, defendant Rex Heuermann faces multiple sentences of life without parole. Remand without bail is appropriate, based on the serious, heinous acts of these serial murders and the strength of the people's case. The life incarceration the defendant faces upon conviction, the extreme measures this defendant took in attempting to avoid apprehension over a decade. Over a decade? It's like 30 years, 3 decades. And the defendant's indictment on these additional charges, which now incorporates a 5th and 6th victim. The people remain steadfast that the only means to ensure the defendant's return to court is to remand the defendant without bail. Got Exhibit A, previously filed, available on request. Exhibit B. Okay, so these were included in the document. But I think this must be what it looks like, what it actually looks like in the document. So you've got that first, then that, then his notes, recon reports, body prep, dispose of the following, things to remember, take down, pick up. Dear me. There you go. That's it. We've done it. We've done it. What an absolute monster. What a complete monster. And remember, this is just one county in one state. Just one county, Suffolk County. So imagine all of the, unsolved murders, remains that have been recovered that have not been identified, or people who are missing, who've never been found. How many of them can be attributed to Rex Heuermann? I would say there's probably more victims in the state of New York. We definitely know that there's more that were found on Gilgo Beach. There's 3 more victims on Gilgo Beach. Well, that's just one beach in one county, in one state. He's got links to numerous other states. How far has he travelled outside of the United States? None of these things we know yet. None of these things we know yet. I want to know if he's travelled to Canada, if he's ever spent any significant time in Canada, because there's so many unsolved murders in Canada, and they kind of fit his style. I don't know. Maybe he's never been to Canada. Maybe there's someone as equally sick who's been killing women in Canada. Don't know. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for the £5. An extra lubricant in your voice. Yeah, I do get, I start to go a little bit hoarse. But thank you, thank you. They've totally got him banged to rights. Totally. His wife is Swedish, I think. But she's lived in the United States since she was a little girl. I don't know whether they've got, you know, whether Rex has spent any significant time in Sweden. But look, even if they you know, they say that the task force isn't going to stop, they're going to carry on going. So I think they'll definitely want to charge him for Valerie Mack. I think she'll probably be the next one, seeing as she's been named several times in this document, and she's got a very similar, you know, the kills very similar to that of Jessica Taylor. Then I think that Valerie Mack, I think they're probably close to charging him with her. And then there's the 3 other victims at Gilgo Beach. I think they're going to try and charge them as well. You see, the thing with them is that they were there for so long before being recovered. Oh, it'd be difficult. You know, it's not what they know or what they suspect, it's what they can prove. Oh, she's Icelandic. Okay. I thought she was Swedish. Icelandic. Okay. Yeah, but she's lived in the United States since she was little. And that's my understanding anyway. Does New Jersey have the death penalty? I don't know the answer to that. Anybody from New Jersey? Well, just the amount of states that he has. You know, he's got that 40-acre property that he's got in South Carolina. That really concerns me. Like, how many missing people or unsolved murders are there in South Carolina? I don't know the answer to that. But also surrounding states, he could be using that location as a dump site. Yeah, and he's got the Las Vegas. Yeah. So who knows? Who knows? Now, this one, I think we're going to be a while waiting for a trial for this one. It'll be interesting to see whether they'll go with the 6 or they're going to wait. Wait and see. No death penalty in New Jersey. Okay. Did neighbours not hear strange noises? No. No, the neighbours weren't aware anything untoward was going on in that house at all. So this guy, you know, since the early 90s, has been most probably taking women, or maybe men as well, to that house, torturing them, mutilating them, murdering them, disposing of their remains, and no one knew anything. No one knew a thing. So, you know, thank goodness for small mercies. And the small mercies in this case are the hairs. Those single hairs that were left behind. You know, the single male hair or a single female hair from someone in his household. That's really the thing that's caught him. Is one hair. That's what's caught him. Ultimately. So, guys, that's that one done. Another horror show. So I shall leave you be now. Wife was clueless. Maybe she was. Maybe she was. Maybe she was. How did you get women into the house? Probably late at night. Because it's only a small house you could park. You could park right up to the door. So he stayed at that house. He stayed at that house for a reason. All of those years. He stayed there all of those years for a reason. Because it fit his, you know, it's quiet street. Quiet neighborhood. Probably knew all the neighbors because he grew up, you know, it was his mother's house. Nobody suspected a thing. And it had that really nice basement where all of this killing and staging and mutilating happened. He's been there for a reason. And Lord only knows what details they've got from that house. There's going to be all sorts that they've found in that house, I bet. Thank you, Jennifer, for the $20. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. Death penalty stays. Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and South something. you cut off there. All right, guys, I'm going to go. So thank you all. Thank you for the donations. Thanks, as always, to the mods. No memberships on this channel, so I don't have to say welcome new members because there's no memberships here. But, yeah, don't have nightmares because, thankfully, these guys are rare. Thankfully. So I shall see you tomorrow. Bye, folks.